You may own a healthy, profitable, and growing construction business. Your company may already be, in fact, it probably is already well beyond the point you ever thought was possible when you started this thing, however many years ago. The employment you offer pays the mortgages and rent of your staff and feeds their kids. And you are respected, admired, maybe even revered in ways that you don't realize. And yet there is still this fear that if they all knew, if they found out who you really were, yikes. What's interesting about this condition, if you want to call it that, is that it is highly correlated with success. And in fact, most of the time, the higher up the food chain you go, the more you feel it. People who are at the top of their game, the true masters of their craft, athletes, business people, entertainers, politicians, artists, and creators, the people on this planet who are actually doing something with their time here, feel this the most. So I guess that's the first bit of good news. You're certainly not alone, and in fact, you're in pretty good company. We don't really know where this comes from either, just that it's here. The research that I've done suggests some of this is residual conditioning from our childhood or our educational system. Other experts say it actually has like a genetic component. So certain personality traits increase the likelihood that you'll experience these negative emotions in your lifetime. But to be honest, none of what I've read seems that compelling or conclusive. But even if we can't pinpoint exactly why we feel this way, it seems pretty clear that it is indeed a thing for many people. In 2011, the International Journal of Behavioral Science published a review article that shows 70% of the human population will experience this at some point in their life. And the data skews especially towards successful people, go-getters, hustlers, people like you. So why am I talking about this? Well, I guess there's a few reasons. The first, selfishly, is that I've personally been absolutely crippled under the weight of this for most of my adult life. Crippled is probably a strong word, but I certainly feel this on the daily. We had an empty hole in the podcast schedule, and I said, what the hell? Let me see if I can have a go at this and try to make some sense of it for myself, at least, and maybe some listenable content will come out of it. So there's that. The second reason, and the more important reason, is that I think imposter syndrome runs rampant among contractors. Now, how I know this, over the last 5 years, I've done 1,200 business assessments, more actually, with as many contractors, which is basically an in-depth 2-hour conversation with the entrepreneur about their past, their present, their future, and what their business needs to grow. I've also facilitated sessions at countless conferences and trade shows, and I've logged a lot of hours with the nearly 500 contractors that we coach, and I get the sense that many of you are less confident about who you are and what you're capable of than you should be. And that's a big problem because how you feel about your business and what you're doing in this world matters. Failing to acknowledge your own accomplishments and not recognizing your own potency as an entrepreneur is not a recipe for unlocking your own human potential. You have to know how good you are without straying into arrogance. More on that later. I want to be clear about something. I am not one of these new age types who spends his time trying to eradicate all negative emotions from my life and live in constant harmony with the universe. Quite the opposite, in fact. Growth hurts and negative emotions do serve a purpose. I actually think this is something we're losing sight of in the modern day Western world. A little guilt goes a long way in motivating people. Healthy rivalry with a colleague or competitor can absolutely get your ass in gear. A little envy can force you to ask more of yourself. Being self-critical in moderation helps you be super real and isolate your own opportunities for growth. And we all know these people who are so at peace that it's actually kind of irritating, right? Their smile reeks of fakeness as they tell you and anybody within earshot about their 4-hour morning meditation routine. I'm telling you, this guy or girl ain't growing at the rate that you are, right? Avoiding the underbelly, the darker side of our lived experience might seem pleasant, but it's not a recipe for high performance. Check back in with Matcha Latte Dude 5 years from now and compare notes. I promise you'll be further along. So no, negative emotions are not all bad. When processed correctly, they can be a catalyst for positive change. I'm a big proponent of that. But the thing about this imposter syndrome thing is that it's especially insidious and slippery. It's like chronic pain versus acute pain. Because it's kind of always there, makes it really hard to put your finger on. To make it even more bizarre, this feeling is completely disconnected from your competence or your abilities. For many go-getters, as their tangible, real-world success and milestones pile up, as their body of work accumulates and they're increasingly acknowledged and celebrated for it, their inner feeling of phoniness, their self-inflicted unworthiness also grows in size. It's a total head scratcher. Like a tumor, your feeling like an imposter will grow and grow and grow until eventually it actually is starting to do you harm. In bad cases, this leads to crippling anxiety, depression, burnout, and crisis of meaning. And it's for this reason you really have to keep an eye on your imposter syndrome. Again, a little bit of the dark stuff for motivation is good, a lot is bad. Okay, let's talk about some practical steps. Listen, if you like that clip, you can watch the full episode by clicking here. If you're not yet subscribed, you probably should be, and you can do that by clicking right here.